you
morning,
doing?
Dr. Coley. I'm doing pretty good today.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm pleased to be here. I think this is the first time I've been in the ASI offices. Well, I'm pleased to be able to come and visit and connect.
Well, thank you for coming down here to talk to me today. Having a lot of students come into this office and ask a lot of questions. And I think you're the right person to answer some of these.
Okay, well, I'm certainly going to give it my best try.
Perfect. I know just the right location to get that started.
Okay, all right, why not follow you?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
Well, good morning, and thanks again for being here with me to answer some of these questions. So being ASI President, I get a lot of students into my office asking a ton of questions on many topics. And one of those topics is financial aid. So students of the campus want to know, as the in-person and phone wait can be very long, can we hire more employees to cover financial aid during peak times of the year when students need help the most?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, James, for being available to have this conversation. And also, thank you so much for providing me some tea. You know that I'm a tea drinker, and I understand you're a tea drinker as well. So let me just say that we are very cognizant of the challenges the students have relative to trying to get the service that is needed. One of the things that you may not know is that 73% of our students, which represents about 16,000 students, are on financial aid. And we are looking at ways, because as you know, we're going from quarters to semesters, and we're really looking at ways to make those kinds of services more efficient and reduce the wait time for students. We also have in terms of questions that students may have about financial aid, we have an Ask Billy site, and I understand that Ask Billy answers about 10,000 questions a month. And so we are looking at staffing, we're looking at the services itself, how we can reduce the wait time. And so I want students to know that certainly this is something that we want to, that we're cognizant of and want to address. But staff also are very concerned about this as well.
Thank you very much. I have another question for you from the students. Since we're an institution of higher learning and we need all the resources possible to get those homework assignments in on time, students want to know, how can we extend the library hours? As a 24-hour computer library lab fills up pretty quickly at certain points in the quarter.
Well, let me just say, first of all, I applaud the students for really raising this desire with regards to extending the library hours. We have in the LA Basin, and looking at other CSUs, we have the longest hours of any of the CSUs in this immediate vicinity. But that being said, what we have done is looked at ways to extend the hours during those critical crunch times. During final exams, during the study periods. And so that is, and I know that when I've talked to the dean, he's very committed to making sure that he can tailor those hours to students' needs. We have the 24-hour study room, and so we want to continue to find ways to expand. And I know that with the new ASI officers coming in, the new president, this may be something that the president might want to work with the dean and to do a survey of students and see what else we might be able to do.
Thank you. Being in the technology age and students having gadgets of all types, there's other places on campus where students can study, but the problem is that Power runs out. So students have another question for you. How can we prioritize additional locations for students to plug in a cell phone or a laptop charger, both inside and outside buildings, particularly in the library?
Well, we do have in the library quite a number of outlets, but as you're talking about other buildings, I'm conducting these listening tours, and on the listening tours, I've become very, aware that many of our buildings, are 30 years old. And so the buildings, when they were built at that time, were built to specifications that didn't imagine the kind of technology boom that we would have today. And so it's extremely challenging to try, and very costly to try and go back and rewire and also provide those kinds of outlets. But I know that our technology division is very committed to working with all the units on the campus to try and continue to expand access so that students can study anytime, anywhere on the campus. And it is certainly going to be one of the discussions that we will have as we undertake our planning process on campus, and as we look at the master plan for the campus.
Well, over the summer, I got a chance to meet a lot of the incoming freshmen during orientation, and a lot of questions that I received was that, why is it mandated for students to live on campus when we do not offer enough spaces to accommodate all the student housing applications?
It's a good question, and I too, as I've had a chance to meet some of the students at orientation and their parents. First of all, we think, and the data support this, that students having ability to have an on-campus residential experience is wonderful. It really provides students with a different sense of the campus, the way in which they live, work, and play with other students, providing opportunities for lifelong friendships. And so we have opened up more spaces for the freshmen. I think in the wisdom, again, of the campus, there was a recognition that when you think about student persistence, when you think about student retention, and even their overall success, that there is a greater likelihood of students who that they will be successful if they have this at least the 1 year experience. At the same time, we know that we need to do more in terms of providing housing, and so you're probably aware that there are plans underway for student housing, new student housing, and so we hope that too will absorb and accommodate this. There is a waiver that students can attain relative to the requirement to live on campus their first year. But that's I think it's a wonderful opportunity, but we need to do more to certainly make that accessible.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Well, I've had a number of students contact me just on a kind of a personal note about their self-graduating and what they're going to do after graduation.
Right.
I know we have a lot of students who are engineers and science majors, like myself, who kind of have a clear picture of what they want to do once they leave the campus.
Right.
So I have another question for you. How can we create more career-centered events where students in preparation for their postgraduate life can learn about how to utilize their degrees?
That's one of the areas that I'm also very interested in coming in as the new president, because I believe that our work is goes beyond the students crossing the stage, but also helping to launch them into their first career, and as well as graduate school. But with regards to the entry into the career, I know the Career Center works with colleges. There are career advisors that are connected to various colleges and really encourage students to go early on to the Career Center. It's not too soon to become connected to the Career Center, so not waiting your senior year. We've had some tremendous, very successful job fairs. This year, I think we had a record number of employers coming to the campus and being very excited about the caliber of our students. We also have tools and resources in the Career Center that students can use. There's a class, it's a 2-unit class that focuses on personal and career exploration. And there's also a site that helps students explore their major in relation to career opportunities. And so I certainly encourage students to, get connected to the Career Center early on and visit many times.
Thank you. Moving on to questions. So, the campus is growing, and we have a very large campus. And I'd like to say we have one of the most beautiful campuses.
I agree. I think it's one of the most beautiful.
Students want to be outside in the California weather. So, how can we add additional outside seating on campus?
Right. Well, in fact, that's another survey that we would like to work with ASI around that topic. But let me just say that, as you know, as I mentioned, we're looking at new student housing, but also the student affairs and the CLA building will be replaced, and part of the design it includes open space for seating and having an opportunity for students to really, and faculty and staff to really enjoy this campus environment. And so as we build and as we plan future growth and development of the campus, certainly that's going to be integrated into any planning that we do, because I think that's what makes this campus especially receptive and so enjoyable for people to come, because it is open space, and so since the students can really get outside and commune with nature, and we want to continue to have that option.
Great. Since we're a campus that is vastly diverse, I have had a couple of students come to my office with certain concerns, and I have a question for you. Can the needs of undocumented students be addressed in a more focused manner with the Resource Center?
Well, let me just say that, right now, while we may not have a particular location, we have dedicated staff and resources for these students, these undocumented students, and we want them to feel as much a part of campus life and the campus community as any other students. We have, through Student Affairs, identified an advisor, someone who can work with the students. But also, I was so pleased to learn that there's a student club called, I think it's Dreamers Ally. Mm-hmm. And they're working with these students to make sure that they get the benefit of their experiences and peer mentoring. And so I think that there is a clear recognition of both the unique needs, but also the common needs that we want students to have addressed. And so working with this student club, as well as the Student Affairs resources, we want to make sure that even though we don't have a specific location at this time, that certainly these students feel that they are being well served.
Thank you. Well, you know that on Tuesdays and Thursdays we have our traditional U Hour and there's a ton of student clubs and organizations out there selling food and all kind of things for the students on campus. And they all require you to pay cash. So a lot of students are around the plastic age where we only carry our card.
Right.
So we go to the ATM and we're looking to get money out, but it might not be the bank we bank with. So we're looking at, oh, there's a fee. Students do not like extra fees. So
right.
What can we do to provide additional ATMs on campus?
Well, the ATMs that we do have, they're connected with the Bronco Center, and ASI oversees that. And it's something certainly that we have to determine if there is, the kind of demand that would attract banks and credit unions to the campus, because for those institutions, it's about whether or not they perceive that there's sufficient demand. And so certainly it's worth investigating whether or not we need to think about a different location, but that's not a decision that we can make, because it is driven by, as you know, the bank and credit unions' perceptions of the gain for them. So it's certainly something that we can put on the list of things to explore.
Thank you. And this is our last question.
Okay.
Coming from a number of students on campus who have experienced being in certain areas of campus where the classroom might not have been as updated as other classrooms.
Right.
So there are still classes that are lacking basic equipment that some others might consider in other rooms. So are there a plan to update some of these facilities?
Well, this is an ongoing process, and we have been continually every year looking at with the resources that we have. And as you know, the student success fee has a large chunk of that is also dedicated to technological upgrades. And so we continue to have a yearly plan for upgrading the classrooms, providing the equipment that is that's needed. And in fact, I have some information or some data that in 2014 there was a full rebuild of IT equipment in 8 classrooms, and there was a replacement of 45 projectors, 20 lectern computers, 7 college labs, and 317 computers. And they're in the process of purchasing more equipment. But I too, again, as I mentioned with the listening tours, I've gone to different departments, and we see that some departments have been able to acquire really up-to-date equipment, and what we're trying to do is make sure that regardless of major, regardless of department, that we will have a fundamental base of technological and classroom support for students and faculty.
Well, that seems to be the end of the list in our time. But thank you so much for coming here and answer questions and enjoying a cup of tea.
Enjoying a cup of tea, and best of luck to you. And again, I appreciate your leadership as ASI President. It's been great to know you, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.